Today we have an exclusive with OG Shadow, who reports on the Mexican cartels. With OG Shadow today is an active cartel hitman, a sicario, sat behind OG Shadow right now. This is unheard of on YouTube to be interviewing someone who is active in this capacity. This hitman is out of Sinaloa. We're not going to say for security reasons what cartel faction he's working for, but OG Shadow is going to give us some more details, and then we're going to ask the actual hitman himself some questions. First off, what does the hitman want us to refer to him as, a name, an alias, or anything, and how old is he?
As far as a name, if you just want to call him Mister, that'd be fine. Senor.
Mister?
Or if you want to say in Spanish, Senor.
Senor. How old is Mr. Senor?
He's around 24. I've known him for around like seven years now. He's about 20. Yeah, 24.
How did he get recruited by the cartel?
I can actually answer that without asking him. My son's godfather, the one who passed away, the actual person who ended up killing my son's godfather ended up recruiting him. So it's kind of a long story, but he ended up finding out what happened and ended up turning against him too. So everyone turned against him when they found out he betrayed my son's godfather. So he lost all his people, and they later lost his life.
What was his entry-level position?
When he started, he started as a lookout, which is like puntero is what we call here. It's when you watch out for the military and movement. That's usually like when you're a youngster. When you get in, that's the position they give pretty much everybody. And once you earn their trust over a while, other positions can open up, like selling dope for them, or maybe if you're talented at other things with guns, a sicario. I guess it really depends on the person.
What equipment do the lookouts have?
Usually something like this.
Do they have radios?
They use cell phones because the military monitors the radios big time now. They used to. It used to be done by radio, but not so much more anymore. They use the throwaway cell phones, the ones that don't have the battery sealed, where you can actually take out the chip still. Those little track phones they sell in the convenience stores. I don't know if it's like that in the UK, but out here you can buy disposable phones for like $15 at the convenience store.
How old was he when he started out as a lookout?
He was 17 when he got in. Yeah, he was 17 when he started.
And how long was he a lookout for?
Let me ask him that one. Like about a year, more or less.
What was the pay for the lookout position?
Oh, it's bad. You guys are probably gonna laugh. Give me a second. Like it's less than $100 a week. It's like around $80 a week. It's like 1,500 pesos.
And to be in the lookout position, is there risk to life or is it quite safe?
Oh yeah, if the soldiers catch you, they'll beat you to death because you're warning the cartels on their movements. And sometimes, firefights happen between the cartel and the soldiers. Soldiers lose their life. So sometimes they directly blame the lookouts. In other parts of the country, the lookout is called El Halcón, or the Hawk, because he's always watching. And there's a story about soldiers taking him up in a helicopter in a Black Hawk and throwing him out and saying, "You're a hawk, let's see if you can fly."
Wow. Yeah, we
Yeah.
saw that with Escobar's case where the soldiers would take him up in the helicopters and torture them, and they'd throw one out and say, "You're next unless you tell us such and
Oh, yeah,
such a
they wouldn't
thing."
even be interrogating. They just throw him out for fun.
Wow.
Yeah, they'd already tortured him and got the information out of him. They just wanted to watch him die, like, creatively, I think. The soldiers get pretty cruel, too, here.
So becoming a lookout then, did he lose any fellow lookouts? Did any of them get killed?
Let me ask. He says in between 4 or 5 because one of them, they don't know if he ran off or if he was killed. You know, sometimes people escape. They'll just take off because they get scared working. So one of them, they're not really sure if he was killed or if he took off. It's because sometimes the government, if they capture you, you just disappeared. You're not reported, arrested, or anything, and your people don't know if you're dead or, you know, that's just how it is, I guess.
So you say 4 or 5 definite killed and 1 run off.
You know, 4 definite killed, and 1, he doesn't know if he was killed or if he ran off, the 5th one.
Who killed the 4?
Um, mira, acá tú. ¿Sí fueron los contras o fue de los gobiernos? Como, excuse me. He was saying that 3 of them were killed by contras, which are the enemy, and 1 of them was killed by his own people. And that 5th one, if he is dead, he is definitely killed by the government because they're the only ones who really disappears people like that, and you never hear of them. Or if the mafia usually does it themselves, they brag about it because they want people to know and make an example out of them, so people don't do the same thing. So it's usually the government if they just disappear off the face of the earth.
Why did his own people kill one of their own lookouts?
Cuando lo mataron, estaba por traicionero, estaba bien hermoso. Ya. Está bien. He got promoted at the time, and he only had a day being promoted, like selling drugs, and he opened up the bags, and that's a big no-no. You don't open up the bags and take stuff out. So he was like getting high off the cartel supply, basically.
Wow.
It's because they're young kids, man. They get in at like 16, 17, sometimes younger, and they can't resist. They don't know any better. It's a damn shame. Lots of people make that mistake.
We haven't even got to the Hitman stuff yet, and this is already heavy duty. What was his next position after Lookout?
I know that because I watched him kind of move up a little bit. He went into first into selling, and when he was doing that for a while, it was like, let me ask, hold on. Cuando estabas vendiendo ahí, llegaste con el diablo como que a un año, algo así, ¿no? So he was working for the guy who killed my compadre selling dope, and it was like 9 months. And after that, he kind of moved into like they'd monitor communications. So he was in charge of different calls coming in and everything, and they'd monitor cell phones to know where the government's at. And then once they know for sure where he's at, he'd tell the people up above where the movement was. So that's as high as he got up before said person was killed. And now he works for someone else, but in the same cartel. And well, his position, you already know what it is now. He works as a sicario, but
So you said he was selling for a bit.
about 9 months, he said.
So what was the dangers of selling? How risky is that?
It's pretty risky. There's several things that could happen. You know, the enemy, as far as if they want to hurt people, sometimes they usually go for the people selling dope because they're the most visible, the most out there, and the easiest to get. You know, they're on this corner in this house. So they're usually the first people to be targeted if there is enemy movement. And that goes for the government, too. Usually the government's paid off, right? But you better hope your boss paid him off, because if 1 week he decided not to, you're the one who's going to pay the price, not him, right? Because you're the one out on the street.
Could you ask him what the most dangerous situation was when he was selling?
Cuando estabas vendiendo, la situación más peligrosa. He said he was working and someone pulled up and he just left like a couple minutes before to use the bathroom, and he left someone working for him, like in his place. And when he left, he said a car pulled up and they had like a sheet over the window, at the back window. And right after they pulled up, they put down the sheet, and it was 2 guys with rifles, but they were looking for him. When they saw it wasn't him, they didn't kill the younger kid who was actually working there. He was like 15, 16, a little bit younger than him, but they asked for him. So if he wouldn't have gone to the bathroom, they would have shot him. But he doesn't know who that was either. So that could have been anyone. That's just how it is.
Did that situation make him want to rethink his occupation?
Cuando pasó eso, que hace 2 veces trabajé con eso. Okay. He said it definitely did, but there's really no getting out, even if you want to. You have to be in like a personal friendship with the people up above, like I was with my compadre, something like that, because if you consider getting out, sometimes they look at it as a sign of weakness. If you've only been in there a couple of years, you have to be there a while, have gone to prison, or have paid some type of big price to be able to consider that. Usually, you could always run off, but there's a chance they might get your family, or do something, to hurt you bad, and usually families where it's at.
During this cartel work, was he sober or was he on drugs?
I think I know that, but I'm gonna ask me. Cuando estabas chambeando, no estaban usando droga, ¿no? Puro boca, you know? They're just allowed to smoke herb. If they get caught doing anything else, the mafia usually gets nervous. They're like a liability. If they're strung out on meth or something, they're not trustworthy because I know this from when I was working and we'd catch people doing it and you beat them with a 2x4 with a board. It's called tablazos for using drugs. Because they don't want tweakers, they don't want those type of people in their organization. They're just not trustworthy. They're more probable to steal, more probable to lie. A lot of people argue that, but I know that's a damn fact.
So, working for the cartel, rising up the ranks, did he have a goal to become a hitman?
Cuando estaba chambeando y subiendo de rango, ¿tenías aspiraciones de ser un sicario o qué fueron sus aspiraciones originales? He said he never really had aspirations at all. He just wanted to make money and be able to eat where he came from. He wasn't eating, like as a kid. So he grew up with hunger and he just didn't want that to happen. He wanted to be able to provide for his family when he had one and be able to live comfortable himself. And he didn't really care what he had to do. I think that position he just kind of just fell into him.
So, what was the pay increase like when he went from lookout to sales and then to hitman?
It's not a lot. It was like $50 increase. They don't get paid a lot. They get paid very, very small. It's not a big thing. It's probably like in dollars, like $150, something like that a week. So, in a month,
That's for the hitman or for
yeah.
sales?
And they're just paid that 3,000 pesos, $150 a week, and they're unlimited. Like they're just on call 24 hours a day. You can end up killing 50 people in a month. You can end up killing 5. It really doesn't matter how many you kill. You're just on call 24/7. And it's not always killing people. Sometimes it's protection duty and stuff like that. But usually it's hurting or killing people.
What training do they give the hitmen?
I could answer that from here, but I'll ask him what kind of training he received, and then I'll tell you what I know from my experience. Cuando estabas entrenando, ¿fue como si era un militar o quién fue que les entrenaba? Yeah. He said it was a local military unit here from Culiacan. He doesn't want to specify whether it was Marines or Army, but it was just a local unit here. And I guess, when they're not working at the base, they're training sicarios for extra money. So when I was active, it was a little different because it was a little more high profile. They'd contract like mercenaries from the United States. I don't know if you ever heard of Soldier of Fortune magazine, but so you can just open the magazine. There's anyone with a couple $1,000s, literally like $2,000-3,000, can contract the Navy SEAL to come for a month and train people. It's not really expensive at all. It's ridiculously cheap. And at that time, that was really big. They've kind of cracked down on that now, so that doesn't happen so much anymore. But before, there used to be a lot of ex-military coming here from the United States to Mexico, but it's changed over the last 5-10 years. He's a different generation than me, so it's a little different.
Before becoming a hitman, had he killed anyone?
Good question. Antes nunca a nadie. No. He said no.
Does he know approximately how many people he has killed while a hitman?
¿Sabes aproximadamente cuánto gente te mataste? He said that he knows of that he saw 15, but he said there's been lots of shootouts and things happened where you're not sure if the person died. You didn't have a chance to walk up and check if they're dead. You're pretty sure you hit them, but you're not sure. So there's been lots of shootouts, and that's how it is because sometimes there's lots of people. You're not targeting one person. This could be 100 people against 100 people, and you don't get to go see if it was a kill. But he knows 15 people that for sure.
So 15 confirmed plus probably a lot more, but it's all in the thick of the battle.
If you get to live more than a year in that life, you've probably got a lot of bodies on you. You know, most people don't live long, but they're so active in such a short period of time that it's not hard to stack up a big number.
Were all of his kills by gun?
Todos los personas que balajearon están con algo, sin carona. Yeah, he said with gun, one was with we have like grenade launchers below the weapons here. It's called an M203. So one of them, they shot that into a house and they got somebody. But the other ones were close range with weapons. But that was just because I guess the person was armed. When they shoot back, you know, they use heavier guns.
Has he been hit?
He said before he was working as a sicario, he actually got hit. They actually killed someone in where he was working, enemies, and he got hit in the upper thigh. But as a sicario, no. So I'm not sure if that question, if you meant as a sicario or if he'd ever been shot his whole life. But he has been shot, just not as a sicario.
Does he have nightmares about the killings?
¿Te da pesadillas o duermes a gusto? ¿Cómo está eso? He said that sometimes he sees people's faces, you know, but that's the people that he had to get really close to kill, like in distance-wise. Sometimes I guess you shoot them from farther away, and sometimes, you know, you have to get up close in public places.
Does he worry that his luck might run out?
I'm asking. No te preocupes que te va a acabar la suerte un día, ¿no? Todos nos pasan eventualmente, ¿no? Neto. He said he believes we all have destiny, so he knows he thinks like it's pre-chosen, I guess, like what's gonna happen to him. He doesn't really think it's going to be anything of his actions. He's going to die when he's going to die, and it was pre-planned.
Does a man in his position have the choice to quit that line of work, or is it blood in, blood out?
Oh, I can answer that. There's no way he could quit unless he stayed in a lot longer or did a long prison term, or there's very few circumstances, or maybe if you marry into people who are up above or make good friends in the right places in your organization, those are kind of the only ways. They don't like to let people out because they can leave with the secrets of the group, if that makes sense.
So he's trapped.
He's trapped, 100%. And I know the people he works with, and they don't let people go. Especially not now. It's even more strict now than 10 years ago. Now, with the infiltration of law enforcement from the United States and things like that, they're a lot more careful to not let people go and become protected witnesses in the United States somewhere.
So you said that he started working for the cartel because of the lack of employment and he was hungry and he wanted to provide for his family. What's his family members' attitude towards his job?
Do you want me to ask him? Because he has a lady. He has a lady. I'm not going to say how many, if he has or if he doesn't have kids, but he has a direct family. Or do you mean like his parents and stuff like that? What part of his family do you mean?
All of them. What is
Generous.
the attitude towards him being a hitman? Do they know he is a hitman?
I'll ask both of us. Su familia saben que dónde chapeas y qué piensan de tal, ¿no? Sí, sí, sí. Um, his mom cries, and so does his wife, but they know they need the money to eat. So it's a blessing and a curse, is what he said at the same time. But yes, and to answer the other one, they know what he does. Yeah, they know what he does.
If the opportunity arose for him to get out, would he take it?
Si un día te llega la oportunidad de salir de esa vida, ¿lo tomarás o quedarás donde estás como He said he'd get out in a heartbeat, but only if he had some way to take care of his family. I think, if he had some way to replace what he's doing now, he'd love to get out, but he wouldn't want to leave, he said, and not be able to provide for his family because he knows he'd have to go right back.
What was his life like as a kid growing up?
Como cuando fuiste niño, ¿cómo fuiste tu niñez? He said that here in Sinaloa, it's common, a lot of people grow up poor, but he was pretty happy. He didn't really know he was poor, he said, until he got like 13, 14 years old, and he started going to middle school, and people started to make fun of him and stuff for his clothes and what he had.
So what was he like in school? Did he have interest in any school subjects?
Nunca tenía ese interés como en un específico subjecto en la escuela. He said girls.
Did he have a dream of what he was going to do when he was an adult, when he was a kid?
Perdón. ¿Nunca te soñaste que ibas a hacer cuando ya fuiste de grande? He said it's kind of funny because he wanted to be a soldier, which is like the opposite. It's like the enemy, now. So I don't think he ever imagined that.
If the enemy captured him, what would happen to him?
Oh, they torture him and then kill him. They torture you to get everything out, information, and then they'll murder you 100%. I've never heard of them letting anyone go, ever. It's usually a question of how bad they torture you. You know, if it's a kind death, they might just put a gun to your head and be like, tell me everything you know, and what you tell them, they'll blow out your brains. But if they're cruel, you know, we can't go into what they do here on YouTube, but they're pretty,
Yeah,
they're pretty creative.
yeah, people have seen things online about how creative they are. This is really harrowing and sad at the same time because it's like he's a victim of a poverty trap and he's gone into something that he can't get out of, which could probably lead to his death. So, out of the other hitmen he has worked with, how many of his compadres have fallen?
La gente con quien trabajabas cuando han caído. He said dozens. He has an exact number, but he said that's one thing that's kind of personal to him. But he said dozens, so it's
What
pretty.
was what was the biggest battle he was in?
Conflicto bélico lo más grande. Bueno, te escucho. Ah. Actually, it was really close to here about 3 months ago. I don't know if you saw, I had to leave my house about 2 months ago. They were
Yeah.
fighting really heavy close to here in a place called Tepuche. I actually put up a video of the Sicario stopping an ambulance and then putting all the wounded kids into the ambulance in the middle of the street, in the middle of Culiacan. They just load up like 10 kids in the back of this ambulance. It's up on my site. And he was there that day. So there was hundreds of people, I know that. But this is infighting inside the Sinaloa cartel. So this isn't a different cartel. This is them killing themselves, basically. Chapo's sons killing Mayo's people is what's happening.
So you got the Chapo clique versus the Mayo clique.
Indeed.
Who is winning that war?
It depends in different parts of the country. Mayo's people have a lot more experience and better weaponry, but Chapo's sons have a lot more numbers. So, you know, here in Sinaloa, Chapo's people have taken Culiacan, but they haven't been able to leave Culiacan. So all the surrounding area, they're kind of surrounded by Mayo's people at the end of the day.
Was Mayo the real boss above Chapo?
Always, always. That's why he let Chapo want to do the movie and all these things, because the more attention Chapo drew to himself, the better for Mayo. He's kind of like a scapegoat, I guess.
So is the US after Mayo now?
Oh, I think big time, but I think at the same time they work with him. You know, that's why he doesn't get caught. I think a lot of, you know, he's connected with people high up in the government because he moves things, he controls things, and there's a saying, it's better to have a devil I know than a devil I don't know. And I think that's kind of how the government looks at it.
So where does the hitman get his weapons from? I mean, yeah, the cartel are providing them, but are they coming from the States?
Oh yeah, that's what I used to do actually, was bring guns down from the States. That's where they all come from. Sometimes heavy weaponry like missiles and things like that, they could come from the Middle East, like, you know, shoulder fired rockets or RPGs, or sometimes they might come from Guatemala. But I'd say 95% of everything comes from the United States, and that 5%, you know, that's the explosive category and stuff, it comes from the Middle East or Central America.
Does he think that drugs should be legalized?
¿Crees que drogas deben ser legales o qué pedo? He said he thinks some should be legalized. He's not for fentanyl and meth being legal because a lot of people out here feel that those aren't drugs, that they're like chemicals, you know?
Wow.
Synthetics, you know, I think is what he means.
Yeah, yeah. Are there any other questions or stories you think I've left out?
I can't really think of anything, Shaun. You do a really good job of questions, so I think you got it covered, brother.
Should we just leave it at this one for now then? So if you've watched this video then, OG Shadow's link to his YouTube channel will be at the top of the description box. I urge you to support him. I've said many times, he's one of the bravest YouTubers out there, putting his life on the line. Good grief, you know, in this interview we've seen how serious the situation is, interviewing an active cartel hitman. I don't think I've ever seen this. I've seen retired cartel hitmen or hitmen have been to prison and come out and written books and things like that, but I've not seen like an active cartel hitman get interviewed in disguise in the field like this. So this is a huge credit to OG Shadow being at the forefront of reporting on the cartels. And again, this is an educational news video, just making people aware of the situation in Mexico, not glorifying violence in any way. And please let us know in the comments what you thought about this video. And I hope some of you are enjoying OG Shadow's channel. Is there anything you'd like to say to the viewers, OG?
Um, if there's a chance you speak Spanish out there and you'd like to leave a word of encouragement for him, you can leave it for him because I'm sure he's going to watch this video, and I guarantee he will. Just probably see if people like it. But besides that, if you want to check out my channel, that's all. I really appreciate it, and all of you have a wonderful day, and don't follow in his footsteps and end up in his position where you're regretting it for the rest of your lives.
Wow, powerful. Stop recording.